So here I am in our main outyards, and all I'm doing, and by the way, a quick outline here, I just wanted to give you a rundown on what I'm doing here out in the yard, and then just kind of a business principle that I have found very helpful. You may find, well, I know you'll find it helpful if you apply it. It's just wisdom. But anyways, first thing, what I'm doing here, I'm just actually going through. So these are, hives that we've moved into this yard, and I'm just looking for dead outs. Today is in the low 60s, and so it's actually pretty easy to spot the dead ones. There's usually no activity. Like you take this one, for example, and then two, just making sure the lids are on good. Overall, love what I'm seeing. I'm sure that we'll get some others culled here by the end of the month and into December. It's kind of one of the things I like about keeping the bees up here in Washington. That's a nice one. Every time you get a cold spurt, it gives you an opportunity to cull the bees. Dead one. See, there's really no activity at all. Versus, next to them here, you've got bees kind of milling around. So just flip this lid up, and then over the next couple of days, we'll come out and grab those. But anyways, I'm still wanting to, when we were in Canada, we wintered a lot of our bees outside. A lot of people did that too, but mostly inside. Actually, good colony. We'll put that back together as well as I can single-handedly while taking a video. Hang on here. Anyways, so yeah, wintering, I had the opportunity to send a load of bees to Idaho for wintering inside, but I just decided against it this year, just simply because we're still trying to catch up and build our numbers back up from that winter we had a couple of years ago. And so I am definitely not adverse to, I'm pretty aggressive with risk taking, but this year that just seemed to be kind of out of what was practical for us, because we had really good wintering success the last couple of winters. Definitely anxious to see if we achieve the same thing this year. But anyways, wintering indoors definitely has its advantages. You obviously have a consistent temperature for the bees, and because of that too, you can more accurately calculate the amount of feed that the bees are going to need to winter successfully. And feed is a major expense. It's a major expense, not just for the feed itself, but also the labor associated with that. And so, but yeah, anyway, so we're just going to winter up here, and then we take our bees to California the first week of January, roughly. And so that's kind of what we're planning on doing. Still seeing the odd bee bringing in pollen, which is really cool. I'm not exactly sure what they would be working right now, but they're definitely... Cut myself off there. Anyways, yeah, I'm not sure what they'd be working this time of year. It's a dead out. Yeah, so we just flip the lid over. But anyways, yeah, so we're going to winter them up here and see what happens. Like I said, overall, we're pretty happy with the way the bees are looking. So, but we'll wait. You don't count your bees until they're hatched or whatever. Anyway, going on to the business principle that I have found incredibly helpful, albeit very difficult to practice, and kind of leading into this is a story of a I went to go buy a few barrels of honey from a guy, younger guy in Washington here, and he was showing me his setup, and he had kind of just purchased or had been handed over the business from his father, and he was showing me his feeding setup for feeding bees, and it was a little more inefficient than what I would personally want to use, but I was interested. I was interested to see how he was practicing, and so he finishes telling me, and I told him, I said, when I first started, I said I used to mix my syrup in a 55-gallon drum and use 5-gallon pails to fill up the frame feeders. And he looked at me and he says, "I'm not the only one." And he was so encouraged to hear that somebody had actually had to start in a rudimentary fashion. And I think, it's so easy for us to let our behavior be dictated by insecurities that we feel or inferiorities. And especially when you're entering into a new industry or learning something new, there's always that uncomfortable part of learning and feeling like everybody else is more competent than you are. Unfortunately, though, when we allow those feelings to start dictating our actions, we rob ourselves of what can be some incredible learning experiences. Because if somebody approaches me confidently with what they're doing, everything else, I'm not going to try to educate them to do it a better way, even if I know there's a better way. I'm going to take it at face value. They know what they're doing, they like it, and they don't need the input. And I think about how oftentimes I've done that in my life, especially when feeling insecure about something that I'm doing, or wondering if I really know what I'm doing. It's easy for me to fall into that behavior of putting on this confident front, but unfortunately, when you do that, you also kind of shut down the conversation for continued learning. And so I just want to encourage those of you who have even emailed me or responded on the post, with the preface of, "I know this is probably a stupid question," or don't give yourself such a hard time. Realize that most people are probably wondering the same thing as you are, but are too self-conscious to ask. And it's a good reminder for all of us. So anyways, that's kind of just a little business principle that this is the split off of our nuke. And this is our nuke, which still has bees. That's good. That's good. It survived until November 1st. Gotta celebrate the small victories. Anyway, so I'm just gonna keep checking hives here and weeding out the dead outs, and it is good to see the bees flying. Good to see the sun shining as well. We'll catch you later.